if the perception of the people, students, staff, is that they feel harmed or they feel or they have fear, then those are the things that have to be taken into account. We are having a hard time having the discussion about intent with regard to, adults. I'm thinking it would be awfully difficult. We would be putting our principals in a very, very precarious situation if they were trying to figure out what someone's intent might be, because it's really about what is the reality of the situation that they are dealing with at the time, and what is the threat that someone is perceiving to themselves. And so they were pretty adamant about the intent part of that.
Is there any way our principals can get any kind of training on how to handle these situations at all?
Well, we do training with them all the time. I mean, we've had law enforcement do training. Ms. Highsmith knows as principal. Even when I was principal, law enforcement would come in and do training with us about investigations. Mr. Titus and I do trainings with them with regard to investigations. But understand that when we're doing investigations, they take time to do them well and to do them effectively, because even the smallest thing tends to have tentacles that reach far beyond just one or two people. So training isn't an issue. We can always get training. The concern is them trying to sit and discern intent, because I might not have intended to do anything, but if the people in my class were fearful, or somebody sitting on the bus was fearful, then that's really where the school and the school system has to provide some level of safeguard.
I think Mr. Titus also brought up the point that even if your intent was pure in bringing a knife to school, if it's in your backpack and it's available to somebody else for use, that you still have a safety issue in the school.
Right.
So it gets to be a complicated scenario. Each one's a little different.
Right.
And there are two pieces to the policy statement, one being school safety and the other one is educational disruption. And no matter what your intent is, you can disrupt the school with your look-alike gun. It's like we don't bring puppies to school either because they're disruptive. And so I think when you think about intent, even if you did not intend ill, you still have disrupted the educational process of those people around you if they are fearful or anxious about what's going on around them.
Yeah, like in elementary school, I doubt that any kid brings a toy gun with an intent to hurt anybody, but it
Still
does disrupt.
disruptive, yeah.
Right.
But I think disrupting the class through a mistake is different than, certainly different than bringing something in order to try to harm someone, or intentionally try to scare someone. And I think it should be treated differently in a way that, the appropriate level of discipline.
And I think that certainly is where, like they had talked about, where that it would be a level from the elementary and middle school. They want some range that's in flexibility in being able to deal with it versus the high school.
I'm thinking maybe we need a different policy for elementary school as opposed to high school, maybe. I don't know what your thought is on that.
The thought of the committee was this language allows for different processes in the procedure.
In the procedure.
Correct.
It could be
And
That's where it ought to be.
elementary
That's where the
and middle
procedures-
and high.
That's what it should be.
Was there any discussion on this thing that has come to bite us several times, which is what kids say? In other words, when we have a heightened situation such as Sandy Hook, and we said, don't say the word gun, please keep the word gun out of the schools. Was there a discussion on how speech enters into our policies?
No, I don't recall us having that conversation. It was really more geared around lookalikes. But certainly when we talk about threats, just in general, we have to weigh, again, we have to weigh what is being said, and is it a perceived threat? Is it something that requires a risk assessment? Because we do risk assessments when people make threats. We do threat assessments when those things are done. So if someone threatens to do something to an institution or a group of people, then, certainly that's treated a different way than somebody threatening to harm themselves. That's treated a different way. So that's dealt with in a little bit different capacity, depending on the scenario than what we would cover with, just the lookalike.
There are
Okay, have we covered it?
No.
I think-
I don't see anything in this policy. And I understand there's a difference between policy and procedure, but the policy is what the board, is what we can create, is what we have control over, so to speak. As far as once the procedures, now, of course, I know we have opportunities to review procedures, but we don't necessarily have to approve them. But this policy, again, does not specify that there needs to be, that the administrators at the school level need to have the authority to take each situation discretion and to be able to apply discretion, apply common sense to each individual case. And I would like to see that in the policy. I know we don't go into that much detail in most of our policies, and if
But
I'm
we
the
do
only
in
one,
the procedures.
right? But again, we're not responsible for the procedures.
Well, we do ensure that they mirror the intent of the
the
policy,
policy.
yeah.
But this is the way that this whole system's set up. This is what we create. This is where we're supposed to be able to put forward our vision, our guidance to the superintendent, who then creates the
Well,
procedures.
Can we take another look at that then and see what?
Is it the wishes of the board for us to put something in about that in the policy?
I think maybe we should discuss it more as a board, possibly.
Yeah,
It's,
I'm not dissatisfied with the language that was added. I think that it allows for alternate pathways in the procedure and the discussion of latitude for elementary and middle school. I am satisfied with the changes that were made.
mine too. I don't mind being vague here, because there's quite a depth to those procedures. But our intent, we've said we've got to make sure that in the procedures, it does reflect what we thought was in place already, which was discretion at the school level. But we realized after the fact that there was not.
At what point do we begin inviting public comment on this? Have we already started that?
No, it's after today. If you want us to post it as is, we post it and public comment starts. If you want to make changes to this before it's posted for public comment. Or if you want to hold it for a month, we hold it for a month until you give guidance on what it is posted. But it's not until your decision
Do
as a board to
we
move
want to
it
post
forward.
it? Post it?
I do.
I would like to hold it. And let's review it, discuss it more. So we can make sure we get it right, because we've gotten a lot of heat on this policy.
I just had a question. I really like the policy. I think it's a lot better. But I just had a question because policy 1115 deals with disruption. So if an elementary school student or middle school student was to bring a lookalike weapon that the principal classifies as a disruption, do you then enforce policy 1515 and then also 1115? Like, could you, like, how do you deal with the 1515 because it's more severe that they brought a lookalike weapon? Because her example of bringing a puppy, you would go under policy 1115.
Right.
So what's the difference?
Usually what happens, if there's a conflict in which policies, and we have a couple of policies that cross over, it would go to which is the more severe of the two. So obviously, when we're talking about a lookalike or a weapon versus a disruption, because you could have, obviously it's going to cause both, then obviously that would defer to the weapon or lookalike or whatever it might be. Same thing with if you have a fight or an assault, that's a school disruption too. But clearly, the fight would be probably the the more severe of the two.
Well, do you want to hold this another month?
Can I ask one more question? What about someone making it the gesture of a gun with their hands? Does that come under 1515? Or is that,
It all depends on what the situation would be. I mean, I would hate to sit here and say, yes, this
Sure.
is the policy, no, it's the policy. I think you have to take into account what actually occurred, what
Okay.
happened,
so it's what they did with that hand?
what
More
they
or less.
did with the hand, what did they say?
And also, Mr. Titus gave the example, doing this is really different from inside the pocket where someone could actually perceive that as actually being
Sure, that's
a
different.
weapon.
Sure.
Okay, so we're gonna hold it a month?
Just hold it to think about it, or are we taking
Yeah.
any, okay, we'll hold it to
Is
think
that
about it.
what you want?
Not me, but let's vote.
I thought we should get the new procedures out there as quickly as possible, at least, because we have, right
Well,
now,
Is Kelly the only one? You all,
No, Joe and Kelly have expressed the desire to,
I'm ready just to vote against it.
okay, so it's
well,
your call.
let's
whether
just hold it a month then and think about it and come back and take it up next month. Is that okay?
Okay.
Or do you want to put it to the vote now?
well, we would just be talking about posting it, so,
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
I
I think
But all in
think we
favor
should
of
just
posting
discuss
We
it
could
more.
still change it if we,
And once it
we
gets
could still
posted,
talk about it.
you can
Right,
post
so-
it and you could get public comment.
Okay, I'm in favor of putting it out there for public comment.
excellent.
You making a
Okay,
motion
and
to
then
that
we'll
effect?
post it.
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Second, Don Valensky. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. And we have the
Okay, so
second.
We'll go ahead and post that for public comment and be back next month.
But we can change any wording.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure the whole board's comfortable
Well,
with
right,
everything.
because the public
Yeah, we
comment
can't.
might drive
We're waiting
us,
for their
It
input.
could.
Correct,
might encourage us to
absolutely.
change it.
And actually,
Absolutely.
that's a regular part of the process, is the whole purpose of public comment.
Right.
Okay, policy 6036, personnel.
Yeah, 6036 regarding
Thank
the
you.
observation and evaluation of non-administrative certificated employees we're bringing you for review today. This is the one that we've postponed for quite a while, and we're actually ready to bring it to you because you can see we've made a very minor change in the wording of the policy, but we feel that this could accommodate the change in the observation evaluation process that is being, discussed and determined at the state level. So it was staff's belief that this policy would allow for changes in the procedure and could accommodate the evaluation process.
Just by changing it to we'll use established processes?
Yes, and the reason
processes.
it's plural is because depending on now the type of employee, like a guidance counselor evaluation would be different from a teacher evaluation. But each one would have an established process that would be delineated and followed.
You're looking at just posting this now?
Yes.
Any other comments?
Once
Okay,
this
post it.
policy, once we make this policy, once we move this policy along, then is there a time limit for when the procedure needs to be changed? Because that's the meat of the issue,
Okay.
and we don't have that yet.
Well, procedures can be changed at any time. So the procedures would reflect whatever evaluation process is in place at the time the procedure is written. Okay, so once you adopt the policy, and actually we change procedures all the time in between policy changes. So as soon as there's a change in the evaluation process, the procedure would change to reflect the process being used at the time. If that would change in April, we'd change the procedure again in April.
Okay.
It's pretty bland.
Policies for discussion.
The only thing I have for policy for discussion today is the timeline of upcoming policies for review between now and December.
Okay. Next item is bid approval. Mr. Michael, are you the
Yes, sir.
man of the hour?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Dr. Carroll, Ms. Highsmith, members of the board. You have before you a memorandum requesting your approval to piggyback on St. Mary's County Public Schools contract with Schmidt Baking for baked goods. Last year, we spent about $78,400 on baked goods for our food services program. I am pleased that Schmidt Baking, who we did business with last year, has kept their prices constant for this upcoming year.
Good.
So we would ask that the board consider approving the piggyback.
Do we hear a motion?
So
Make a mo-
moved?
Mr. McConkey moves. Mr. Swigar seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
I can
All
do
in
that.
favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very
sir.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Shouldn't the board try some of these baked goods out before we approve it?
You're on a diet.
Well, if you
You're on a
wish,
diet.
Ms. Highsmith will give you further direction.
He's on a diet.
So should I.
Okay, proposal, let's see, budget
Budget
adjustments.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We're here today to put before you two budget adjustments for your approval. The first budget adjustment relates to salaries, teacher salaries. And pursuant to policy 5515, we are requesting your approval for an intra-categorical budget adjustment in the amount of $150,000 from workshops. $120,000 would be allocated to the regular ed salary account. The remaining $30,000 would be allocated to instructional assistant salaries. And the purpose of this is to reduce class sizes in, I believe, 2 of our schools. Is that correct? Okay. The $150,000 is just an estimate. It is subject to change based upon the level of experience of our hirees, which would then determine their starting salaries. Do we have your approval for that adjustment?
Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve?
Mr. McConkey moves.
Second?
Mr. Chanelli seconds. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Is there a discussion?
Yes, please, discussion.
Sure.
So you're saying that the $150,000 taken from workshops, it could be more, it could be less. You would go back into the workshops money if you needed to. Do you know what workshops aren't going to happen because $150,000 has been taken out of the budget for that
I
line?
don't have the details. Have you had a
No,
discussion?
No, the Department of Instruction those monies have not been allocated to all the different workshops for the upcoming year, no.
So that was just free money that wasn't going to be
Well,
used?
It's not so much free money, it's money that they have to
Spend
look
it
at
differently.
and look at how, and there might be a couple workshops we're not going to be able to afford or whatever, but that would be a discussion that the Department of Instruction, and the Department of Instruction is aware of this. We have 2 elementary schools that have 30 students in a kindergarten class, and we also have another elementary school that their second grade class is overpopulated. So, trying to stay within the confines of that 25, which in our elementary schools we're over, and because of the budget constraints. And so we're looking at different ways that we can make sure that we provide the best to the students in the classrooms. And there's going to be some workshops that apparently they won't be able to attend or be able to do, but I'm asking for that.
Edie, I thought that there was talk that at the end of the year, the teachers were encouraged to take 7 days of training. Am I getting something mixed up here? Because I thought that's where this money came from.
I don't
not
recall 7
people-
days. There was an optional 1 day.
There was an optional one
I don't know, I
day
got
at
7
the
days.
end of the
1
school
day.
year that they could get workshop pay for,
If they chose.
if they chose. It
And
was
then
strictly,
if they didn't, this
no,
budget
Well, this
item
budget
does
is
not have-
new
This is a whole
fiscal
different
14
budget.
money. That was fiscal 13 money.
yeah, that's
Oh.
physical, this is
Gotcha.
totally
Totally
different money.
now we're in our year.
Totally,
That's right.
totally different budget.
Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do I?
One more. To be clear, what's going to happen here for these, hire a new teacher, go to the other classes in that school, take 5 or 6 kids out of each class at that grade, and
That
So
would
it'd
be
be
at
changing-
discretion of the principal,
so it'll be
yes.
changing classes for
Yes.
some children.
Okay,
Which
move-
we have done in the past. This is not a new, it certainly is not something new in the elementary schools.
Okay, moved and seconded. Do I hear a all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Record one vote no. Mr. Dwyer, no. Okay, the second budget adjustment.
The second adjustment that we're submitting for your approval is a request to increase the school security improvements budget by $343,037 through the use of prior year fund balance. This money would be combined with the fiscal 14 local appropriation of $250,000 to yield a total of $593,037 to be used for this security improvements initiative. Some of the projects that have been identified to be funded by this is making adjustments to door locks for classroom doors that currently do not lock, as well as modifying some of the current open concept classrooms, sometimes known as pods, and making some significant changes to school lobbies so that we can limit access by outsiders who come into our buildings, limit their access to the rest of the building. Do we have your approval for this?
Make a motion to approve.
Mr. McConkey moves.
Second.
Second, Ms. Berlinski.
I just want to make a point, though, that I believe that this is the difference when we have a $2.8 million prior
Deficit.
year fund balance, that this was brought forward from the previous
Correct.
year.
From fiscal 13,
So
correct?
that our let's see, how would we call
The
that?
whole.
The biggest hole, the item that's in the hole is 2.4 million.
Yes.
Because we're taking this out. Okay.
And then the 250 came from the commissioners, right?
Right.
Yes,
Right.
fiscal 14 appropriations, yes.
Moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carried.
Thank
Next, thank you very much. Next would be the proposal for reorganization.
I have presented,
Ms. Highsmith.
yes, I have presented to the board a reorganization chart, and I'm asking for approval
Do I
from
hear
the
a
Board
mo-
of Education.
Do I hear a motion to approve the organizational chart?
Motion to
Ms.
approve.
Berlinski?
Second.
Ms. Shinawi? Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Ms. McGuire?
Oh, because we haven't identified the funding source for the new.
Motion
for how it's all
carries.
gonna work.
Motion
Yeah, I
motion
understand.
carries.
I understand, I was expressing the reason for my vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
And, is that it?
Thank you. Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, then we go down to enrollment results, reports. Are we picking up some students?
I've got the truck outside, we're going across the bridge.
You're bringing them in?
About 25 or so, we're short, so I'll see what I can gather out there.
I'm sure Anne Arundel has a few extras. I'll send down.
As of this report, we're sitting in eSchool with 15,915 students. So that's about 25 shy of what our projections are. Now, I don't want you guys, and I told Ms.
That's
Eisman
not
this.
bad.
Well, don't get too excited about that, okay? Remember now, we still have students who are almost on a daily basis are withdrawing. Some are coming in, but some are withdrawing because it's usually after Labor Day, because a lot of school systems in the surrounding areas don't start until after Labor Day, that we'll now start getting phone calls, or we'll start getting things, the schools will, that are requesting records for students. These are students who are currently in eSchool, who we have cleaned up the data as much as we can at this point. Some of these are warm bodies. Some of these are students who have been here for at least one day. Some of those are students who may still have been listed in eSchool as a student in our system, but they have yet to show up yet. With as clean a data as we get without with warm bodies actually showing up in our building, we were sitting with 15,904 students at our last count last week, not the one this week. So we have one more count of actual warm bodies who will have shown up and walked through our doors at least one time this year. We have another count that will start next week, and we'll get that next Tuesday. Then what's happening at this point right now is I have all the personnel workers guidance counselors, registrars in the schools who are trying to track down students who have not shown up in their building. They're called no-shows. And in 2 weeks, we'll get a report. We'll ask for another report from them as to how many students are actually, we don't know where they are. You've tried to track them down. Last year, we got to within 3 students of knowing where everybody was supposed to be. They've either left our system or sitting in our system, or they're in a facility outside of our system. And we found those 3 sometime in the month of October. So right now, it doesn't look too bad. Clearly, you get the attendance report, so you notice that the elementary school is elevated. We have not reached the projections yet in the middle school or the high school. So that's where our deficit is at this point. However, as we were doing those projections over the years, we had talked to the board about the bubble starting to roll now. We'll start to see that there's going to be, even though there's a decrease in secondary schools, you're going to see that bubble starting to roll into secondary as those elementary schools age kids start moving on. So we're looking pretty good. I'm not as confident that we're 25 shy of what the projection are, but Dr. Carroll, if you're happy, I'll be happy with you, okay?
I'll be happy unless it goes to 200.
But right now, I think we're sitting somewhere between 50 and 25 kids that
That's
I'm
pretty
saying.
close.
It is. When you're talking about trying to project on a certain day of the year how many kids are going to be in your school system, and you can get within that amount, that's pretty good. That doesn't mean that sometime during the course of our year we're not going to sit with 15,940. We might be on point on September 30th. We may not, but sitting here on the 5th of September, I think we're really close. So, and 97.3 of them showed up for the month of August, so that's pretty good.
There you go.
I want to make sure your 3rd grade is accurate, because I'm ready to order the dictionaries for the Rotary.
Yeah, well, don't ask me for the numbers
That's
right yet.
wrong.
I'll get them to you in a week or so.
I had a question on the pre-K. It shows us having a total of 315. Last year we had 425. Does Head Start figure into this?
I think you'll see pre-K, it's going to fluctuate. Last year, it started out lower, but then as the months progressed, some of the numbers popped up, so that's a
people
that's a
enroll
number we
during the
have now,
year.
but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe it doesn't increase, but I would certainly talk with Dr. Yates about that. She could probably give me a better indication. I'd be happy to find that out.
When will the Tier 2 kids start going into the system?
The what?
The Tier 2 for the Head Start into the pre-K, they have it broken down into tiers where, you know what I'm talking about, Nancy?
Yeah.
When will they start going into the system?
Into
Well, yeah,
the
they're not
pre-K.
in pre-K yet, the Tier 2. They
Right.
haven't started yet. They
Right.
start off with, I guess, Tier 1 first.
And
then-
I don't know when I don't know.
I heard
It
it
would
was middle of
depend on-
September, I think.
Oh, good.
Well, they did start the program.
Yeah,
They
the
started the
program is-
program, but
right.
the Tier 2 wasn't going to be notified till the middle of September, is what I was told.
Yeah, I don't know. I certainly can find out from
Dr.
Yeah.
Yates.
Dr. Yates
Okay.
how she thinks that's going to pan out.
Yeah, I had a lot of parents contact me not knowing whether their child was going to get in or when they were going to get in at all.
Yeah. I know they've
Let me
been
explain that.
frantically working on getting all those
Yes, because
assignments and,
Really late.
Yes,
And
it
I
did.
know that we went through a hiring process that those poor ladies back there, they were interviewing, I think
wanna
over
think they-
one day, they interviewed over 100 people.
I was
in
going
one
to say,
day.
I think, over 100
Good grief.
applicants. They had like, what, 70 interviews or something like that?
48 strong.
Yeah.
And they also take the enrollments in order as they get them, and most people don't know that you can start in February. So a lot of people didn't fill it out till July, so they're down the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you said, it came in really late. So,
Well, thank you, Kim.
Thank you,
Alrighty.
Kim.
And next, we have the personnel reports. I recognize this lady from somewhere.
Good afternoon, Dr. Carroll, Ms. Highsmith, and members of the board. You have before you a report of last month's personnel actions for support employees for informational purposes. And in addition, you also have a record of proposed actions for certificated employees that will have to have your recommendation. And at this time, I defer to Mrs. Highsmith for her recommendation.
For classified,
And the professional. Classified, you don't have to do. It's your
okay.
call.
Well, they still have, I recommend for approval for classified,
No,
and
yeah,
then for professional.
Information for classified.
professional, yeah. We have to take action on that.
There is no classified,
I recommend you approve for professional.
Okay. Do I hear a motion? Move it.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second?
McConkey, Mr. Sinelli. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. It's easy.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, for personnel, I would like to recommend to the board appointments for Assistant Superintendent of Operations and Assistant Superintendent of Administration. For Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Mrs. Diane Workman.
Do you want to take these separately?
Yes. I wanted to give a little bit of an educational
Sure.
background in her history. She has earned a bachelor's degree in special education from the University of Pennsylvania. She has a Master of Education as a reading specialist from Towson State. She is certified in special education in kindergarten through grade 12, reading specialist, administrator 1 and 2. Her employment history, she worked in Anne Arundel County Public Schools as a principal, a director, an assistant principal, a teacher specialist, and teacher. In Calvert County Public Schools from 2007 to the present, she has been an assistant director of special ed, an assistant director of special education and instructional support and enhancement, a director of instructional support and enhancement, director and principal of the Calvert Country School, and a director of staff development from July 2013 until present. I recommend to the board Ms. Diane Workman as Assistant Superintendent of Operations.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion
Ms.
to approve.
Polinsky?
Second.
Mr. McConkey? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
I recommend to the board Mr. Anthony Navarro for Assistant Superintendent of Administration. His educational background, he has a bachelor's degree in elementary education awarded from the University of Maryland. He has a master's of ed degree as a reading specialist from the University of Maryland. His teaching certificates are elementary ed and middle school, reading specialist, elementary, middle school principal, and supervisor. Employment history, he has worked in Calvert County Public Schools from July of 1984 through October 2010. He was a teacher at Beach Elementary, a teacher at Sunderland, a vice principal at Patuxent Elementary, a vice principal at Beach, a principal at Mount Harmony, and the principal at Calvert Career Center. He is coming back to us. He has retired, and he's coming back to us from retirement.
Make a motion to approve.
Mr. McConkey moves.
Second.
Mr. Sinelli seconds. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, is that it for the, well, the only thing we have are comments by the board. Start down the other end. No?
No comment.
Well, congratulate the staff on the first couple weeks of school. Obviously, off to a strong start. Attended several open houses over the last couple weeks now, and seeing a lot of energy. Obviously, a lot of knowledge. Been very impressed by teachers that I've met and the administrators. Being this is my first time on the board, first time the new school year starting. And also like to note that decided we're going to attempt to start posting these meetings, the video of these meetings on YouTube, which I think will be a great asset for all of the Calvert County citizens to be able to see what's taking place here when it's convenient for them rather than having to tune in at a specific time. And get you the link so we can tweet it out when the site comes up.
I would also like to congratulate the staff in the schools and in the administration for a very smooth opening. Every school that I've been to has reported that things have gone very well. And a lot of excitement out there, and I'm very proud of our school system. And we will do our best to keep it running as smoothly as possible.
I also was able to attend many open houses, and I got to meet Patriot Pete up at Northern, their new mascot, so that was really cool. And the Northern Huntingtown big rival football game is this Saturday night at Huntingtown, so I'll be there.
Well, I'd just like to say also, it's an excellent school opening, and I think it's a tribute to our new interim superintendent. She's through a difficult time opening up, and a lot of things that she's had to get into and learn, and she's done a fantastic job, I think, getting us operating this year. Look forward to a real good year, Nancy.
Thank you.
And thank you for all you do.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for your support.
And with that, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all.